Chemtrails? What are chemtrails?
Chemical trails, Daddy, and they're very bad.
I look up to the sky. Can you tell me why? Can you tell me why? I don't wanna see you.
Hello, this is Dane Wigington with GeoEngineering Watch Radio for April 18th, 2015. Oh, where does one start? You know, every day, I know I've said this before over and over, but every day it's truly like waking up into an insane asylum where so few people seem willing to open their eyes and acknowledge what's right before their eyes. And this is certainly perplexing for all of us. We'll get to questions and call-ins about a quarter after. Got Russ with us today, as always. Russ takes care of the show and does a hell of a lot for the cause in more ways than most can imagine, including helping with keeping GeoEngineeringWatch.org up and running, as he did last night at very early morning hours his time, as the site was down for a while. And again, my deepest gratitude to Russ. But back to, and to everybody who's helping this cause, by the way, but back to people's incredible ambivalence, no matter how bad situation gets around them. I was distributing some materials yesterday around Reading, DVDs and flyers, to try to supply certain people, especially coming up for the march on the 25th on Earth Day. Trees dying all over town. Temperature is incredibly warm. We're in the 90s, the mid-90s for the next few days. Record-shattering warmth, which the media really doesn't cover almost at all. The UV radiation being so intense, you can't put your hand on a car surface or anything. It's that intense. I mean, it's like living in a microwave oven with a heat lamp above you, because you can feel when the air is lifeless, when it's got the desiccant, the moisture-absorbing particulates in it. It's a very different feel to the air. And also, again, where they're creating these high-pressure domes over California, which they have done over and over and over, they appear to create a lens effect. And when you fill the atmosphere with these particulates and you expose them to certain radio frequencies, the friction of those particulates, and just like we would see created in a microwave oven, creates heat. So it definitely appears they are, in fact, creating heat under numerous circumstances to add to the high-pressure dome and continue to manipulate the cool downs on the eastern U.S. And the ambivalence, again, of people that we're all surrounded with is astounding to us all. And I know that's hard to get used to. It's hard to get used to the resistance from our family and friends, and then ultimately they distance themselves from us. Why? Because we're trying to tell the truth. And that's hard for many to cope with. I certainly understand that firsthand, after 12 years of this in a family that doesn't speak to me anymore. So it's something we have to learn to deal with. And the bottom line is, who would we consider our family and our friends? Those who also regard the fight for the common good, the fight for the truth. And if someone distances themselves from you, whether it's a family member or a friend, because they're uncomfortable that you're trying to tell the truth, that is their burden to carry, not yours. When we look at the bigger picture of our planet and the common dilemma that we find ourselves in, I hope people stop to consider some basic, fundamental realities that help to keep a clearer picture of what's going on our planet today, and that having a clearer picture can help to avoid some of the conflict and controversy that the power structure uses to divide us all. Earth has an energy balance, or had an energy balance. This is important to consider and understand. And the climate equilibrium of the last 10,000 years, which allowed humanity to establish stationary settlements, if you will, and to expand at the prolific rate it has expanded. This equilibrium was really unknown in Earth's 4.5 billion year history. This energy balance, if you will, was extraordinary. That energy balance has been obliterated, and people should consider that anything that affects that energy balance throws that energy balance off. And the amount of factors affecting that balance are endless. It's truly, where would we begin? From the cutting down of the forests, the paving of the planet, the decimation of the oceans, the burning of perhaps 20 to 30 million years worth of stored hydrocarbon in 200 years. All this adds to the disruption of that energy balance. Nothing more so than climate engineering, the intentional disruption of the Earth's attempt to try to keep that energy balance. Where we can see this disruption most clearly is in the completely engineered cool down of the eastern US. And I really, really want to stress this point, and I'm putting out a post after the show. I'll have it on my Facebook pages and on GeoEngineering Watch to further stress this particular scenario, this cool eastern US, which is completely engineered, completely unnatural, and it's imperative that people understand this. And in fact, the article that my post is based on is the latest publication from Climate Central, with climate scientists scratching their head as to what is creating this incredible imbalance in the U.S. lower 48, where the western half of the country fries and the eastern half freezes. And in fact, again, as I've stated so many times in the past, the eastern U.S. being the most anomalously cold zone in the entire world for the last 2 years. And it's imperative that people in the fight to expose climate engineering, that they recognize these cool downs as being engineered. It's absolutely imperative, because if we pretend that they are natural or don't identify them as being unnatural and engineered, we're doing exactly what the power structure wants, exactly what the Weather Channel does, exactly what Climate Central does, and all the other major establishment bought, sold, and paid for institutions do, is to try to write these events off as being completely natural, again, when they're anything but. So on this point, again, people need to ponder the bigger picture on the planet. And this, again, the controversy that the power structures helped to create, in especially the U.S. population, that this psychological operation, which is the engineered cool down of the eastern U.S., has caused a great deal of confusion with people. I hope those people look at the bigger picture, look at what's happening around the world. For example, right now in Siberia, much of it is burning to the ground. 300,000 or 400,000 acres have already gone up in flames by mid-April in areas that are normally frozen solid till mid-June. The amount of the planet that's far in excess of normal temperatures is astounding, with the exception of the eastern U.S., a shallow layer of cold created by climate engineering. So as we see the power structure backed further and further into a corner, which is absolutely the case, we see them becoming more dangerous. We see countries around the globe descending literally into chaos. We see now what can only be described as massive amounts of migrations beginning to occur due to resource depletion, climate disruption, conflict. And again, that conflict, it must be remembered, is centered largely around resources. All the battles in the Middle East, all the attempts by the U.S. empire to destabilize countries and take control of their resources, it's about the resources. And that's what's so important to remember. It has nothing to do with democracy, absolutely nothing. And this has been business as usual for our country and the Western power structure as a whole for too many years to even begin to recount. From the Central American destabilizations and the installations of puppet governments to the occupation of sub-Saharan African countries after they were droughted to their knees, to the droughting out of the Middle Eastern countries for years prior to the destabilization that's occurred. Climate engineering has wreaked havoc around the planet for so many years, right in front of everyone's face. And how does this happen? Again, back to the post that I'm going to put on this afternoon. How does this happen? Because we have a climate science community, and I use that term science extremely loosely, because at this point, what passes for science is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, these people have tremendously extensive educations, but how does that apply? For example, when it takes several dozen PhD scientists several years in a recent study of the Greenland ice melt to determine that, yes, the ice is melting and running into the ocean, does it really take that many highly credentialed scientists to determine something so incredibly simple? And yet these same scientists can't or won't admit to the climate engineering elephant in the room? How is this possible? I feel the climate science community at this point, at minimum, so many of them need to be considered criminally negligent. At minimum. At minimum. If they're afraid to speak out because they've been threatened and they don't speak out, that's one thing. But when they speak out and tell a lie and they deny the climate engineering issue, that's another thing. That's to participate in the crime. So again, it's imperative for those in our community who truly, people who are trying to fight to expose the climate engineering issue, to bring it to a halt, it's imperative that we understand what's happening on the bigger picture, that we do actual research, that we abandon our preconceptions, our bias, and that we don't try to compartmentalize or to think dichotomously, I should say, in making everything a this or that equation. It's a complex equation that we face. There are many reasons they're spraying in the skies, not just climate engineering, of course. We have the DARPA weapons. We have the use of the ionosphere heaters for what amounts to weather warfare and geological warfare when they can trigger seismic activity, which they appear to be able to do. So that's a complex equation. The state of the climate, a complex equation. It's not just this or that. And many are trying to paint the argument that, for example, that we can't really know what's happening with the state of the climate until climate engineering stops. That we can't really know if it's warming. And this is not true. We can't know what the climate system will do completely until climate engineering stops. But the fact that the planet is warming can't be rationally disputed. Whatever you want to consider the cause, it can't be disputed. To make that argument would be like saying if you had a body laying in the street that was shot in the back of the head 5 times and someone was still shooting that body, that to try to make the argument, well, you can't really know if that person's dead until you stop shooting him. Well, if they've been shot that many times, it's pretty safe to say that they're damaged. And even if you stop right now, they're not going to get up and walk away. So, again, I hope that all of us will, back to the beginning of my conversation, not be deterred by our family and friends that are resistant to our attempts to share the truth, and that when we share the truth, that we're confident that it is the truth, that we've done research, that we've looked around the globe, that we examine the fact that the climate system is disintegrating. Climate engineering is fueling that fire, not the only cause, but is fueling that fire, that we have what amounts to resource wars going on all over the globe, and that we're basing our attempt to share the truth on verifiable and well-researched fact. That's all. So, Russ, I want to get to phone calls, but first, how warm is it there? What's the temperatures been like? And I'll share what we're experiencing here.
Temperatures here have been pretty warm lately. We've had very rapid drops in the evening. We've had quite a bit of spraying visible in the air, and also those who can smell and taste it have reported a lot. But we've had very rapid drops in temperature in the evenings. But it's been pretty warm. You know, it's been warming up here. But I know that what's going on out there is a whole order of magnitude different. It's now on mainstream news, and they're, of course, not talking anything about what the real cause is out there in California.
Well, you know, again, it's not warm here. It's hot. It snowed here in my location a little over a week ago. It snowed. It went from It went from 90 the week before to snow, and now we're back in the mid-90s. This is the point I'm trying to make in the beginning of this conversation. This is not natural. The cool down of the eastern U.S. is not natural. It's completely engineered, and it's, to a very large degree, a psychological operation. And it's unfortunately been very successful. Many people have chosen to accept the conditions that they're under as being uniform around the world, and the truth could not be anything further away from that. So, again, I'm asking people to look at the larger picture, and certainly in California, it's astounding to me when our temperatures are record-shattering. The temperatures we're going through right now are shattering former high-temperature records. And it's constant. This is absolutely constant. And even people here buy the concept that because the eastern U.S. is cool, then the whole world must be so. And this is truly astounding to me that people are accepting exactly what the power structure want them to accept. So the bottom line is these cool zones are getting smaller and smaller as the climate engineers force the climate further and further. It's well past the point of any return. People ask me that a lot. Are we past the point of return? This is a mathematical certainty. We've been past the point of any return to the planet we've known for probably 2.5 to 3 decades. Now we're fighting for a planet that may still sustain life. But it's imperative that people, again, look at the wider picture in their attempt to share data with others. Russ, let's open up the phone lines and try to get some conversation going. And if I ask people if you call in so we can get to as many calls as we can, if you can please keep it condensed, and we'll try to answer that as quickly as we can so we can get to as many questions as we can. Russ, you can open up those phone lines.
Absolutely. The phone lines are open. For those who want to call in, please call 718-717-8296 to talk about what I call the largest crime against humanity and all life in recorded history. So please call 718-717-8296.
You can't call it anything else. I mean, this is the greatest assault against all life on Earth ever unleashed by the human race. It's the epitome of human insanity. We are gaining ground now, even though it appears a lot of the data online is not coming up on Google searches. And we're seeing some pretty interesting things in that regard. In fact, we had about 3 dozen mainstream articles come out in the beginning of February. They covered geoengineering, but it seems since then someone has decided that they don't want anything out there. A lot of those articles aren't even coming up unless you do a pretty diligent Google search. So I think there's an ever-increased effort to try to hide this as long as possible. And at the same time, the cataclysms that are unfolding on the ground are becoming impossible to hide. We have a magazine called Health Freedom News. I've just had an article published there that I'll try to get as many of those magazines out as I can. I salute the owners and editors of that magazine that had the courage to print this article. It's a feature article in the magazine. The title of the article is Engineering the Biosphere, an Unfolding Cataclysm. And they have taken a leap by allowing that to be a feature article in their health magazine. And again, I'll get as many of those out as possible. So we are gaining ground in that regard. There are several attorneys now that are considering helping with an effort to get some sort of suit going. I can't disclose a lot more than that, but I have a conference call coming up with them and a few other key people that realize now the ship is going down. They're on it. And this is what happens when we can reach critical mass. So many people have asked, well, we have to take this step and that step before we reach critical mass. That's putting the cart before the horse. Once we reach critical mass, and this is why the effort to reach that point is so imperative, then other people that we need in this fight come into the fight on their own, like attorneys, like major executives in environmental groups and others that we absolutely have to have in this fight. They come into this fight on their own, and we are reaching that point now. So we're in a race against time, Russ, and this imploding climate situation we face right now, things are happening that the science community absolutely doesn't even understand, even those that are willing to admit the truth. We have a 1,000-mile zone of the Pacific Ocean right now that's becoming incredibly warm. And again, the climate engineers have tried to bottle this heat up in the ocean. Since about 2007, they've made a very diligent attempt to suppress El Nino. This is why El Nino has not developed, because when they pump this high pressure zone over California, it pushes the trade winds backwards, bottles that heat up in the Pacific. It prohibits the oceans from releasing that heat. Now we have a massively warm zone off the U.S. West Coast. We have fisheries being shut down. I don't know how many of the listeners know that. As of 4 days ago, most of the fisheries for the forager fish, the anchovies, the mackerel, all shut down. Those fisheries are collapsing. The ocean marine system is collapsing right now. Again, there's a lot of things that can't be hidden for much longer. Russ, have you caught wind of or seen any headlines on the shutdown of the fisheries?
I haven't seen them myself this week. I've seen a lot of other headlines that start to talk about crazy weather. And, I think, Dane, that's part of kind of like a psyop. I think it's the way that they disarm the public in understanding that this is artificially created. Is if it's in the news, people think that they kind of feel like it's being dealt with. So as long as the news is covering it, then people feel like they don't have to worry about it. Somebody must be taking care of it.
Well, that attitude, and again, so much of the population has that attitude. Somebody somewhere is dealing with it, so I can just go on about my golf game or watching my football game with a six-pack on the weekend. I mean, this notion has to go. All of us are a part of the whole. All of us have to be involved and engaged. And every day, no matter where you're at or what your activities, where they take you, you can help us to move the ball forward by carrying data with you and grabbing every opportunity to share that data. I don't drive by a chiropractic office or a health food store if I'm touring the U.S. The West Coast, as I did a week and a half ago, all the way up the coast to try to observe the tree die-off, which I mentioned last week. I don't drive by any establishment without going in if I think they have anything to do with what's unfolding. Again, chiropractic, the fisheries offices, Forest Service, Park Service. I go into every single office and simply pass on the data, state that the media is not covering this, governmental agencies are not disclosing it, it affects us all, please investigate. And it works. It works well to just pass on a short comment and some credible data, start a spot fire, and move on. And all of us need to be engaged in this.
And this is what's going to cause the landslide that's really going to open up the floodgates of truth, I believe, Dane, is that this has got to be social pressure. And what that means is that everybody listening to the show and everybody who's in our Facebook groups and who are aware of this need to pressure people. They need to let people know that they know and get other people involved, because it's going to be, the government is going to respond to those they fear. And when there are enough people who know about this, who are demanding something, then there'll be more disclosure. But it's going to be public pressure, social pressure. And that's up to each one of us. We need numbers, don't you think?
We do, and those numbers are growing. And again, it's imperative that when you pass data on to someone, that you do it with confidence, not trepidation. There's no question about what's going on, so be sure of that. Pass that data on as if your life depends on it, because it does. So again, the attitude you have, or the internalized certainty you have, is evident to others. So make sure that you are certain, and you have every reason, every right to be certain.
And
so
Dane, I want to apologize to people for calling in. Sorry to interrupt you, but people are saying they're getting a busy number. It should be coming through. I don't know why you're getting a busy signal when you call in, but we're going to work on it, try to see what's happening. So,
well, it seems that a lot of our efforts to deliver the message are thwarted, Russ. So, we've had this problem on Skype before where no one was able to call in. So I'll hope that you're able to get around that and get by that. But again, if people weave into the picture everything that's happening right now, from Jade Helm, the military exercises that are going on. We've heard from Corey Gunnels in Prescott, Arizona, about the Black Hawk helicopters flying around there. The power structure is preparing for all hell to break loose. It can't not happen. Once there's not enough resources to go around, I don't care how much money you print, I don't care how much falsification of data you do, from the unemployment figures to economic growth, it doesn't matter. Once there's not enough to go around, chaos is close. And it's starting to unfold now. We have perhaps 36 countries around the globe that are descending into chaos right now. And that chain or that dominoing effect will pick up momentum rapidly. And this is what's important for people to remember as well. This is a non-linear equation from the climate to the collapse of ecosystems and resources. Very, very non-linear. And people have been trained to think linearly. They're trained, and we have climate scientists even doing this, back to exposing them. They take a graph looking 200 years backward and try to project that graph going forward. That's completely irrelevant. You can't do that. You can't project the graph that went backward and try to make that work going forward. This is a nonlinear equation. So in regard to people's perception that, for example, climate changes take place over vast amounts of geologic time, this has not been true even without humanity's destruction of the planet. But now you add humanity, and we're talking about an equation that is so incredibly nonlinear that we are facing, and in the midst of right now, what's termed abrupt climate change. It's happening at a rate that can barely be comprehended, Russ. So again, people need to re-examine their perceptions, their conclusions, the basis for their conclusions. If we don't do that, then we've subscribed to a certain belief, almost as if that's a religion, and that's dangerous ground. Go ahead, Russ.
We've got a lot. First of all, people are trying to call in. Please keep trying. I know you're getting busy signals. Thanks for giving me feedback and letting me know. We're going to work on that and see if we can get that cleared out. Technical issues, we never know what the cause of this is, but at least we don't know what's causing this. But, Robach, you familiar with him? He is, I've seen video of him talking, just trying to convince people that all these lines in the sky are due to an increase in commercial air traffic. And, according to the FAA's own website, commercial air traffic only increases 0.9% per year. This is right off. This is less than 1%. I got this right from the FAA. You know about Robach? Have you seen him talk at all? Or
I've met him.
You have? Yeah.
Yes, and again, Robach, Ken Caldeira, David Keith, and all the other meteorologists and journalists that some of which we're featuring on the disinformation directory. These people should be held criminally liable at some point. They can't not know. And if they truly don't know, then they're criminally negligent for not knowing. This would be like a police officer. Of course, we just saw an example of this, of the police officer that couldn't seem to figure out his taser from his pistol and shot the man in the back several times. If that can't be considered criminally negligent, the same with the meteorologists. If they don't know or can't see or can't recognize an aircraft dispersing materials in the sky, and with the mountain of data surrounding that, and the satellite imagery and the lab tests and the UN documents and the presidential documents outlining the climate engineering programs going back to the mid-'60s, and if they can't figure this out and they claim to be the experts who are supposed to know, then they're criminally liable. And the public should hold them accountable in that regard. So, again, it's up to all of us. It comes back to all of us being involved in this, Russ. It's up to everyone to contact these people and hold them accountable, to post their email, get friends. If you're in a certain area and your local meteorologist is towing the line for the power structure, like you just outlined with Robach, and they are explaining away what's happening in the skies as just condensation, then it's up to people in those regions to take this person's public email, confront them, share it with others in the area, and share data, post credible data on their site, hold them accountable. Let them know that we know they're lying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry, is that phone working now?
Yep, phone is working. We've got callers, so please, you're able to get in now, so please call in. And I totally, the thing I think we both agree on this is that these people are knowingly lying. The Ken Caldeiras and the Robachs, you just watch these people lie about this, and it's just there's some clarity you can see when you look at them that just shows in the way that they talk, the way that they smile and they smirk. Besides the fact that we know that it's impossible for them not to know they're in this field, they just have an air about them when I watch these videos of them. But callers, thank you for calling in. Our caller with the number that ends in 85. Who are we speaking with?
Hello, this is Gary from Tampa, Florida.
Hey, Gary, good to hear from you. How you doing?
I've been doing a lot. Hi, Dan and Russ. How you doing?
Good. What's your question, Gary?
Good, Gary. Good, Gary.
All this week I've been calling the Air Force complaining. I tell them I see the trails in the sky. Huh? Sorry?
No, go ahead, Gary.
Oh.
So what happened?
Okay. They've been trying to. I said I see a plane trail. I see the trails in the sky, and they go, "Oh, that's a contrail." They jump right to the contrail, and some of them had jumped to the chemtrail. I never even mentioned chemtrail. I said, "Oh, because you want to call it chemtrail?" So okay, I'll call it chemtrail. I'm monitoring. I'm recording all my calls. I've been calling them. And I told them, if you spray 1,000 times, I'm gonna call you 1,000 times because I'm concerned about this. I'm tired. I had enough, and that's why I keep calling. And I called the Air Force, I called the DOD, I called the FAA, and I'm complaining.
Gary, you know what might help? Is that, look, if you email certain people and phrase your email articulately, scientifically, and get their response back, something that we can post and something that we can then hold over their head, that they have officially denied something that it is their job to know. So again, the more we keep a record of this, then the more we can help expose these people that are willing to lie for their paycheck and their pension. So I'd encourage anybody to do what you're doing, but do it on an email where you can articulately put that email message together, keep it short, something that can be posted, and put some credible data there, and get an official response from them, something that we can post, so that then their official email contact can also be put out, so that these people can be spotlighted, so that they know we know they're lying, and that it's not okay and that we're not okay with it. So I would suggest
I am, and I'm making sure I'm putting the pressure on them, because I told them, I said, if they do it 1,000 times, I'm going to call 1,000 times. And I just get the phone numbers. I get the phone numbers, but there's emails there, too. I mean, maybe I can go that route. Because I did have a formal complaint. They did take a complaint from me, and they wrote it down, and they passed it on. And that's all they, they keep doing.
Gary, all I'm saying, I appreciate what you're doing. I really do. But I'm saying do it in a manner that we can most easily share it with others, pass it on to others where it's written, it's clear, and with the email context or the email contacts for these people, then we can get others to help rattle their cage as well, others to help expose them, to shine the light on them. So the email is a good way to go because we have a written record of the correspondence. So I encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. If you can do it in email form, you can polish your message completely. That way you say exactly what you want in condensed form. You can get an official response from them, and that's something we can post and put out for everybody to see. So thanks for what you're doing, and please keep it up. And if you get that kind of correspondence put together, please get it to us.
Yeah, I'll get the email.
Yes, yes, Gary. Thank you for what you're doing, Gary. I've gotten your phone calls as well, and I'll speak to you shortly. Hopefully today, I've gotten your phone call messages. Is that MacDill Air Force Base you're calling, Gary?
Every day. And I tell them they're flying right over your base. And I tell them, aren't you concerned about that? They go, no, I'm not concerned about it. I said, well, I would be concerned about it. You're not even investigating those things. I mean, it's going long trails right over Air Force.
I actually grew up, Gary, in Newport Richey, Florida, and we used to see fighter jets go overhead at least once a month. And in fact, interestingly, this past week I saw 2 fighter jets in formation fly right over my house out here east of Bangor. Never seen that before, never seen it. But in Florida, because of MacDill, we used to see them all the time. But, keep up the good work. I think Dane's got some important information about keeping a written record, having articulate information, maybe rain samples. And I'll chat with you later too, Gary. Thank you for your work.
Okay, thank you.
Gary. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Dane.
Thank you, Gary. Great stuff. Good stuff. All right, caller with your number that ends in 05. Who are we speaking with?
Hi, Mario Ramirez out of Fresno, California.
Hey, Mario. How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys? got some good conversation going.
Good job speaking in Fresno, Mario. I greatly appreciate that. For those, a little information on Mario. Mario took the time to come to the CalJam event in Southern California. He's former military. Mario, you're Air Force, right?
Navy.
Navy, I'm sorry. But now Mario taking a solid stand for us, and I think brings a lot to the table. So anyway, Mario, thank you for joining us in this fight. And what's going on, my friend?
Yeah, well, my little experience, being in the military, you get firsthand experience, being compartmentalized and trying to get fit into a box that you don't really want to. I think, like, the human spirit just doesn't want to be compartmentalized. So I looked into, just simple things that were going on with my country and who I represented, and I just was astounded at some of the things I would find, and one of the main things was geoengineering. And I look at the sky right now, it's just disgusting. But, went to CalJam because I was wanting to, see you, hopefully, other people, good speakers there. And Dane's the real deal, everybody. I didn't even know how to get involved. I was overwhelmed with everything like that was going on, and took the time to educate me, to set me up with the right people. And now I was able to have the privilege to go speak to the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Board. And Pam, she's a thing too. She had gone previously, and they were just shunning her, like they were kind of laughing, like having side conversations. And then this time we went, I was just stating that, I was a former veteran and that this issue was very serious, and just stating facts that I got from your website. And I was getting educated, and just a look of shock on their face. And then they're like, yeah, it is going on almost. And I actually got a card from the board member, and he wants to, speak with me and Pam. And so we are reaching people. It needs to happen a lot faster than it is.
Well, when people like you step up, and my gratitude goes right back to you, Mario, when people like you have the courage, especially being former military, to stand up, speak out with no uncertainty at all, with complete conviction, that's what we need. So again, we're grateful to you, Mario, for joining us in this battle, and we will.
Yeah, the confidence thing is huge too. When you guys figure out that this is going on, and you can have science and all these articles in your favor, your confidence is through the roof. You want people to try and debate because it's not debatable. So that's my experience so far.
I hope more of your former comrades in the military follow your lead in this. We desperately, desperately need our military brothers and sisters to join us in exposing this insanity. I salute the service of all those military men and women who have given their life to military service, like General Albert Stubblebine, who I interviewed a few days ago, who was woken up to this. Again, we need our military brothers and sisters to march with us in this battle. We are on the same side, on the same team, and it's imperative that we continue this outreach with people like Mario in order to connect with those that are still in the service, so that they understand what's really going on, that they're being lied to, that they're being used as pawns and weapons, in fact, against their own population. So, Mario, again, my deepest gratitude to you, and we'll continue until we get this issue out in the open and brought to a halt, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. Just one question before I go. My huge thing now is if I can get people on board with the thought that it is engineered, what is kind of like the layman's terms, like step-by-step, how our rain is being migrated from us? Because I know it's happening. I know a little bit about it, but I'm sort of in that foggy area.
What I would suggest, Mario, again, for anybody on that particular question, search engineered drought catastrophe target California. There's a live presentation on that subject, and there's a written article as well. Please review both of those, and that will make clear the various methods by which the rain is blocked from entering our state. One is the constant high-pressure dome, which prohibits moisture from even entering our airspace. Two, when moisture does pass over us or is allowed to pass over us, when it's aerosolized, which means too many condensation nucleation particles, too many particles sprayed, the raindrops can't combine and fall but rather migrate onward. This is the big featureless skies that we see so often. And so this changes convection, it changes wind patterns, it migrates the moisture. So there's a number of mechanisms by which they can block and are blocking the moisture from entering the state. But if you review those articles, Engineered Drought Catastrophe Target California, that will give you good insight into that, Mario.
Thank you very much. And in closing, everybody just needs to test their water, their rainwater. I mean, I'm doing it out of my own money. I don't see any greater cause than to spend $60 on to test my rain or $100 to test my hair samples. So, everybody just needs to figure out like their calling in life and realize that this is definitely a huge issue. And people like you and Russ are just amazing and are very valuable to people who are awake like us.
It's all of us working together, Mario. You're just as important in this equation as the rest of us. And on the resource issue, two things to consider now with the testing. We know some of the tests are being compromised from labs. We know this. We've had duplicate samples sent out with very different results. So we have so much data right now that I would actually try to encourage people to distribute the data we have to those who have no idea this is even going on. I'm not trying to discourage the testing, especially when it comes to the testing your own body for the metals that are built up. But I would also argue that we have so much data right now. Our bigger goal is to get that data out, to reach those people who have never even heard the term geoengineering or solar radiation management. We have to reach those people and plant those seeds. So again, downloading flyers off geoengineeringwatch.org. The download is for free. Holding viewings in your particular area. Perhaps various PowerPoint presentations, help get the word out, help start spot fires, and all of us can do that. And Mario, again, people like yourself, being a veteran, bring much credibility to our cause. So my deepest gratitude to you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mario.
Great, Mario. Thank you for the call, and thank you for what you're doing. I'd also mention to people listening, if you can get your local university oftentimes to do water tests, rainwater tests, for $15 or very, very inexpensively. And if you don't know how to do that or you're timid about doing that, contact me and I'll be happy to walk through it with you or actually call them for you and get the test lined up. So thank you, Mario, for what you're doing. Caller with a phone number that ends in 90. Who are we speaking with? I'm sorry. We just had 90. I apologize. That ends
No, 90 is me.
Oh, you are 90. Yes, caller.
Yep.
Who are we speaking with?
Paul from Colorado. How you guys doing?
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm doing well. I got two quick things, Dane. If you could maybe explain the adiabatic lapse rate and how it pertains to the atmospheric conditions that are required for contrails. I think that's a huge nail in the coffin.
Well, Paul, I think, again, we've tried to cover that issue again and again and again. And as far as go down into some rabbit hole at this point, if people simply go to the home page of geoengineeringwatch.org, scroll down and view the high bypass turbofan jet engine tutorial, I think that's a lot clearer to people, Paul, than doing anything else. And again, it comes down to this with the aerosol spraying issue. We have film footage of the spraying being turned on and off at altitude up close. If that doesn't convince somebody, then they do not want to wake up. And that's where that's where the rubber hits the road. And if that's the case, all you can do is plant the seed and walk on. When people talk about how do we prove this is happening, if film footage of the crime happening doesn't prove it, what does? What does?
Well, right. From my perspective, I guess from my where I'm at is I deal with a lot of atmospheric scientists and climate scientists, and if you can give them numbers, things, equations, and stuff that they can relate to,
as opposed to see with their own eyes, though. Again, I
Sure, I get you.
I deal with some of these people as well, and it comes down to this, and this is part of my post today, that for so many in academia, and this includes the entire climate science community, unless or until you can show them a peer-reviewed, establishment-ordained study that says it's happening, unless you can show them that, it's not happening. It doesn't matter if they can see with their own eyes. It doesn't matter if we have film of it. It doesn't matter if we have a mountain of data. Until there's an establishment power structure approved study, which is never going to happen ever, then for them it doesn't exist. That reality doesn't exist even though we can see it with our own eyes. And these are the hardest people of all to reach. Again, a week and a half ago, as I was trying to reach media in my trip to start spot fires up the California coast, spot fires of awareness, being with the Eco News in Arcata with their editor, who clearly did not want the information I was passing on. And you know, my confrontation with him, how can you call yourself an environmentalist when you ignore the single greatest environmental threat of all? These are people who have psychological issues, and you can't wake them up. They have to wake up on their own. You can plant the seed, but beyond that, I would move on. And nobody is harder to reach than those in academia. You can't add to a cup that's already full. They feel they know it all. Their arrogance is beyond belief in many cases, and they are psychologically the most challenged of all to wake up.
Yeah, I concede to that. Second thing I've got to my fellow veterans in regards to Jade Helm. This is a lot bigger than I think anyone's willing to admit right now, but reach out to all your brothers and sisters. Tell them what this country's about. It's not about training on their own land and basically trying to lure our own citizens into what could turn out to be a false flag attack. The most important thing I'm doing right now is contacting people at a website called sofrep.com. It's SOFREP. It's exclusively special operations writers. All the contributors are former military, and the most important thing you do is remind them of what liberty is, what this country is all about, what they served for, what they lost their brothers and sisters for.
Paul, can you post that on, are you on Facebook?
Yes, sir.
Have you posted that on my pages, for example, or Russ's?
No, I have not. I have to warn everybody, though, they're very hostile to the conspiracy crowd, and this is still a huge conspiracy. So you have to approach it from their mindset. You know, do not mention chemtrails. Do not, you know, I think the most important thing you can do is tell them that if something stinks about this operation, tell them to start paying attention. Look for agents provocateurs. Look for, look for anything that smells funny, because these guys are good guys. I know them. I worked with them. They're honorable. They have integrity, but they still are warriors, and they still want to fight. So,
if you post,
I think that's a key issue.
If you I agree with everything you stated, and the approach is imperative. Using the science terms is imperative. The chemtrails term is truly toxic at this point. I mean, I try to avoid it at all cost, and we have to stick to the science terms. And the type of method to approach these types of people with, I fully agree with you. If you posted something and you outline exactly what you just stated, that, you know, it's imperative to reach these people, but do it with respect. Try to understand their mindset. We need them on our side. We need them to wake up, but you have to do it in a manner that they will not reject. If you posted something with that type of commentary, so people understood what tack they need to take in this attempt to communicate with them, that would be hugely helpful, because we need to build bridges, not burn them. And reaching the kind of people you're talking about it's imperative. It's imperative to do this. And when I try to reach out to people like this, I state that I supported DAV for 20 years, Disabled American Veterans, VFW. I worked rehabbing NAM vets. I salute their service. I'm simply trying to point out that they are being used for things that they didn't sign up for. And when we have people like Mario involved, you know, I mean, who better to try to communicate with people like this than Mario, who just got out of the service, you know? And I think if we had the right post and the right commentary with that post, so people understood how to go about this, it would be hugely helpful. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, well, if anyone does do it, you know, on Facebook or their most of their content on their website is you have to pay to play, but you know, it's $4, $5 a month, whatever. I think it's totally worth it at this point. But you have to be relevant. You have to be respectful. You have to, and if you're not a veteran, I wouldn't even try it. Honestly, these guys are, like I say, they're hostile. They can smell it, you know. But I think that's a huge place to wake people up. And these guys know guys. They're still friends with guys that are going to be in this operation. and they are very liberty-minded. They're smart guys. These aren't, your jarhead types. These guys are intelligent people. That's how they got into the special forces to begin with. They have strong minds. You have
Maybe,
to wait for that.
Perhaps that type of a post, though, you could even call for our veterans, and there are a number of them in our ranks marching with us in this battle, maybe a call for them to try to appeal to these men that you're speaking about, perhaps ask for just veterans to try to respond. But I think others, if they show the kind of respect that I just described, that I feel for these guys, I think others perhaps can reach out and communicate with them as well if they do it in exactly the right manner. And that would need to be laid out very clearly. But I agree with your point to communicate with them is imperative. We cannot win this battle head on. We have to have the U.S. military on our side. We have to have them waking up. So the kind of effort you described is extremely important, Paul.
Yeah, we have to point out that the federal government is the enemy right now. I hate to say that after serving, but it appears to be true.
Paul, how long did you serve for?
Just under 5 years in the Navy.
That's a long time. And I salute that kind of commitment. I truly do. And I'm grateful that you shared this with us. I'm grateful for Mario, and I hope that perhaps you two can connect and start building a bigger branch of our movement, if you will, that pulls veterans into this equation for just this kind of outreach.
Yeah, will do.
Thank you, Paul.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Paul, thank you so much for calling. Dane, caller, stay online. I got a quick question for Dane from the chat room. Dan, our good friend who's always here with us, thank you for taking the time to ask a question. He wanted me to ask you, Dane, what your knowledge is about John Holdren and how he is involved in these programs.
Well, let's look at John Holdren. We have Tim Ball. We have Lord Monckton. All people who have been posted by those who I think believe they're fighting climate engineering, but they post people like these three I just mentioned who are adamantly and publicly denying that there's any climate engineering going on. So why would we push these people? In the case of John Coleman, he does not have a degree in meteorology. He's a journalist. The fact that he helped to start the Weather Channel, what does that mean? I mean, any executive of any company could have helped to do that. And he has gone on the record, and I posted his 5-minute rant, basically calling anyone who says that climate engineering is going on, calling them a tinfoil hat wearing nutcase. Now, why would we post or push any statements from any of these types of people? So the bottom line is, again, it's back to doing investigation before you put out data, having a basis, a sound and research basis for your conclusions, re-examining those conclusions every day, making sure they're right, making sure they're on solid ground. So Coleman refused the invite of an international or a national radio commentator to debate me on the air. So did Tim Ball. These guys don't want to debate fact for fact. They just simply want to put out disinformation. And the fact that they're completely denying climate engineering should be a giant red flag for anything they say. So that's what I think about Coleman, and I hope people research people like that before they post anything from them.
Very good. Caller, with your number that ends in 26, who are we speaking with? Caller, with your number that ends in 26, are you with us? All right, caller, with your number that ends in 31, are you with us? Caller, with your number that ends in 31, are you there? Okay. Kim, are you online with us? Kim, can you hear us?
Hi.
There.
I do. I put it on mute there for a second. Hey, guys.
Hi, Kim. If your number ends in 26 or 31, I'll call on you again after we speak with Kim. So stay on the line. How you doing, Kim?
Not too bad, guys. Sounds like a lot of good contributions today. And the last caller that called, I wanted to say if it sounds like he's kind of in a position where he may be a little concerned about what he's posting and sharing due to his peers, and wanted to offer it out to him if he's still listening to maybe send an email to you, Russ, or send me a message or something so I might look it over and possibly share it for him instead.
That's fine, yeah. If anybody wants to email me, it's russ@globalskywatch.com, RUSS at globalskywatch.com. And he can email me whatever information, and I can email it to you or relay it to you, Kim. No problem.
Back back to what Paul went over. Thanks, Kim. Thanks for that contribution. Thanks for all you've done for the fight in many arenas. I'm very, very grateful to you. And getting back to Paul's main point again, and Mario's as well, reaching out to our military brothers and sisters that are either still in the service or have recently gotten out of the service, absolutely imperative. I've been into multiple times, I've been into the local military recruiting offices, Marines, Army, Navy, Air Force, very respectful men and women there. They gracefully and graciously received the data I wanted to pass on. I make it clear that I salute their service. I just feel that there's issues that they're not being told about that they deserve to know. I don't go into a long rant, but they've been incredibly respectful. We need to reach those people, and it has to be done in the right way. Again, when someone has dedicated their life to something, as Paul said that he did, and Mario expressed as well, it's a difficult process to wake up from something that you gave so much to, realizing it was completely different from what you thought it was. And that's a painful process. So we need to be cognizant of this, but we need to reach out to these people fast because they are what will make or break our effort to change course. We have to reach our military brothers and sisters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've got a couple minutes left here, Kim. I will try to get another caller. And is there anything else you'd like to say, Kim? And thank you again. Our Facebook group just crossed 30,000 people this past week.
Woo!
Yes. So a big milestone here. So let's get those people involved. Anything you'd like to contribute, Kim?
Just one thing to let you guys know of. There is going to be a global march. It's going to be on the 25th. A lot of people are worried that they don't feel like they have enough people and they just feel like they might not want to do it. Just go ahead and do it anyway. Do it in your front lawn. Tape stuff to your vehicle. Flyers, signs, make your own stuff. Feel like you're not alone, because even if there's only one or two of you, there's plenty of others that are one or two. And I might just be less than 12 at my thing that I'm doing, but
you can't just take a sign and walk down a busy highway, right?
Exactly.
Thousands of people will see that sign.
Oh, God, yeah.
That was a good day to have the march on as well, because if there's nobody in your area that's organizing anything, you can go to an Earth Day event and carry flyers, carry credible data, and move around the Earth Day event, which are going to be all over the country. In fact, we have a booth set up at a large Northern California Earth Day event. My thanks to the activists that are helping to do that. We have signs. I have several hundred commercial DVDs to give away, flyers, so that we have people there already who care about the environment, and we're going to utilize that huge organized event in our favor. We're putting out publicity that we'll be there. So, I mean, again, that's an option for people too, Kim and Russ. If there's no organized march, go to an Earth event, but do it credibly. Again, you have to look credible. When Mario puts on his uniform and goes up in front of a board to speak as a former veteran, he immediately has credibility, because even though we shouldn't judge the book by the cover, people see the cover first. And when that cover looks credible, you're much more likely to get your foot in the door. So look credible, pass on credible data, do it in an articulate manner, and you will gain much more ground than any other method. So again, people can utilize the Earth Day events as well on the 25th.
Absolutely. We've got about 60 seconds. Kim, stay with us. Caller with your number that ends in 26. Are you with us yet? Caller, are you there with us? Our number ends in 26.
Hello?
Hello. We've got about 45 seconds. What would you like to ask, Dane?
Nothing. I was just listening, and I thought I was on mute this whole time.
Oh, you are on mute, so if you don't have a question, that's fine, but thank you for calling in.
Look, Russ, if we can tie up right now, again, just in a nutshell, the climate system is spinning apart rapidly. So everybody, make every day count. Credible data, pass it on to everyone you can. Thank you.
Absolutely. GeoEngineering podcast every Saturday. Pacific.
This is Ozzy Skateboard, and you're listening to UCY.TV.